Hey everyone, this is Teresa from Base 10 Montessori, and today we are going to do a lesson on the unit division board in Group 4 Math in AMI Montessori. Now the unit division board has a green top to it because we are dealing with the units only, but you're going to see that the color coordination for division is going to be blue, except for the top of this is going to be green because we're working with units. When we get into racks and tubes and long division, we're going to be using multiple boards with different colors, so it's important to understand where the green comes from in this work. So for this video, we are simply focusing on this first presentation, this introduction to the division board. Now, if you haven't been following along with this series, we've already done addition, subtraction, and multiplication in Group 4 Math. So this is the very last operation that we are working with in this particular group. If you haven't seen the other videos, I would advise you to go back and look at those other videos before you work your way to division, because it really does build on the previous lessons. I will drop links down below if you need to find those other videos. I have a playlist for Group 4 Math, and I'll also provide links in the comments section to the resources that we are going to be using today in this video for these lessons. Let's just go over a little bit of Montessori theory with this lesson. So the direct purpose of this lesson is to make the child familiar with the ways in which numbers can be divided, and to show the child that not every number is evenly divisible and that some numbers are divisible by several numbers. And the last direct purpose of these division lessons that we're doing in Group 4 Math is to show the child that there is a relationship between multiplication and division, and we'll be showing that more so in the following exercises in a different video, but just be aware that that is where we are going with these lessons. And the age we usually present this in Montessori is 5.5 to 6 years old. If your student is a little bit older, don't worry. That's fine too, but just to give you an estimate of when we usually present this lesson, it's going to be around the age of 6 years old. Now in Montessori, the first thing we do with every single lesson is to orient the student to the lesson, to the materials that we are using, and we connect it to what's familiar to the child already. So in order to begin this lesson, we want to point out all the different materials that we're going to be using today. So you'll see that we have this box right here, and I'm just going to pull it down a little bit closer. Blue top because we're doing division, and you're going to see that we have beads and Skittles. Now your student should be familiar with the Skittles already because we have done division in the stamp game. If you're not familiar with the stamp game, I will put a link to it down in the comment section below. I have a playlist for the stamp game. I've done all the lessons, so all the videos are available if you want to go back and pick up that lesson first. But your student should be familiar with these Divisor Skittles. And then we have the beads right here. In the stamp game, we explain all the parts of division, so they should be familiar with the language, but if you have not given the language for division yet, now would be a really good time. And you're going to point out that the beads right here, that the beads are the dividend, the Skittles are the divisors, and these numbers at the top are also going to be the divisors. So the Skittles and the numbers at the top are the divisors. And then on this left side here, we have a bunch of numbers, and those numbers are going to be the answer, or the quotient, as we call it in division. So we've given the orientation to the board, and we've explained the dividend, the divisors, and the quotient to our student. And now we have to ask for something that we have gone over since we've done division with the golden beads and the stamp game, and that is to ask our student, what are the rules of division? We started these rules when our student was only 4 years old when we did the golden beads. And if you're not familiar with that series, I will make sure to put a link down below for the collective exercises where we use the golden beads to introduce division to our 4-year-olds. So before we begin, we want to ask our student what the rules of division are. And if they can't remember, we'll let them know that the first one is we always start with the largest quantity. So that's going to be our dividend right there, all those beads. And the second rule is that we have to share equally. So each Skittle, each divisor, we have to share the beads equally between them. And the answer is what one person or one Skittle gets. So that's very simply the rules of division that we have already done with our students. So again, that is going to be familiar. This is a reminder to our students. But of course, if you haven't gone over those rules of division, now would be a great time to introduce them. And then we're going to introduce one more rule to our students. And that is that our remainder or what might be left over that we can't use on the board, it cannot be the same or larger than the divisor. And we're going to explain that as we go along. Now, just a little word on all of the resources that I'm using today. I think the unit division board that I'm using today, I can't remember, but I think it came from AMS Montessori. And then the graph paper is free on Montessori Print Shop. I'll make sure to put a link to that down below. And I will be putting up some diagrams and resources on my locals page. So if you are a local supporter, you'll be able to have access to those materials. If you're looking for the control chart, if you're looking for the finger charts, if you're looking for the division booklets and the division equations, I would highly recommend Montessori Print Shop. That's what I'll be using for these division lessons, and I'll put links to that down below. I do have affiliate links to Amazon and Montessori Print Shop. So with that being said, let's do our first equation. So right here we have our graph paper, and we're going to write an equation. Let's write 24 divided by 8 equals. So we have our first equation. Now let's show them how to use the board for the very first time. We're going to take our cup right here, and we're going to fill it with our dividend, which is 24. And that means we need to count out 24 beads and put it into our bowl. All right, so here are 24 beads in our cup. So that is our first number. That is our dividend. Now we're going to divide it by 8. So 8 is our divisor. And what is it that we use for our divisor? We use the Skittles. So let's set up our Skittles. So here we have set up 8 Skittles. We have our dividend of 24. And what were our rules of division? We're going to start with the largest number, the largest quantity. That's our beads right here. We're going to share equally between the Skittles. And the answer is what one person or one Skittle gets. So let's do that and see what it looks like. One for you, 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 and one for you, and one for you. Now, as you can see, these are very tiny. They can make a mess, and it can be a little difficult. Why do we use these particular beads? As you can see, when you roll it around in your fingers, what does this do? It's important to realize that Montessori is really focused on that pincer grip, developing the hands for writing. Now, of course, this is going to be problematic with some of your students. Montessori Print Shop does have a paper version of this board, and you can have them color it in instead of using beads if you need a paper version. Some of you may have to do some problem solving with your materials in your classroom because they're not going to meet the needs of your students. Not all students can handle the pincer grip of these little tiny beads. And so I just wanted to quickly show you that the Montessori Print Shop version does have all the instructions. It matches up decently, maybe not exactly in the same order, but it matches up pretty decently to my AMI albums. It is good enough for you to use, and it's going to catch all the basics. And you can see that they have a paper version, and they have 2 copies for you. And it says down here, cut out these green circles and use them as Skittles. And it says in order to use this board, you will need 81 counters. So you're going to have to find something to use as counters for this. You could use stickers, you could use colored pencils, anything that you can think of that you can use for counters that may work better than the beads, that might be a little bit different and help students who do have some special needs in that area. This paper version might offer you just a little bit of flexibility for your students. So I just wanted to show you what it is that they offer in this Montessori Print Shop package of the unit division board. It's pretty affordable. They give you the instructions, they give you some paper templates to use, and they're going to give you the booklets to use as well. So everything comes as one package. So it's a pretty good deal for that. So we've gone over the rules of division. We've shared equally. Now, how do we find the answer? Remember, the answer is what one person or one Skittle gets. And that answer is found right here. And we call the answer the quotient. So the quotient here is 3. And so once we've given them an equation and we've shown them how to find the answer, we want them to check their work. Now, this is a chart I made in training. If you go to Montessori Print Shop, they'll have some very affordable versions of these division finger charts. And so it'll be much bigger than this. So I condensed it down for you to be able to see it on this video, but just so you know, it's much bigger than this, and it's much easier to work with than this teeny tiny little chart that I'm showing you today. Similar to the other charts, we do have 2 places on the chart for our fingers to go. and meet in the middle in order to find the answer. So with division, we're going to have the dividends up here in the top in blue. And then we're going to have our divisors on the side. And what we're going to do is we're going to find the dividend of 24, our divisor of 8, and where those fingers meet. That's the answer or the quotient. So that would be 3. So again, I will put links down below to resources for these division charts so that your student can check their work and do the finger charts as well. In the next video, I'm going to go over the second presentation of the unit division board, and we're going to go over how to use a booklet and the limitations of this board. But for this video, that's all I have for you today, just simply the first presentation, the very first lesson. You can continue writing equations on graph paper for your student and have them work with this until they're comfortable. And then we're going to come back and make that second video on how to use the booklets and the equation slips. So with that being said, like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.